What is up, everybody? It's Rebecca Johnson of Supergirl Radio. We'll get started here in a little bit. We might be somewhat delayed because I think Morgan is going to be joining us in a little bit. But until then, we are going to be talking about Krypto, the Last Dog of Krypton, #2. That's a lot of Krypto and Krypton in there. Kind of a tough issue to get through, but really well done in terms of the visuals, I thought. So we'll get into that. But in the meantime, before Morgan joins us here on the stream, if anybody watching has any questions or wants me to discuss anything, I'm happy to just have a little Q&A session. What I can talk about, just to brief everybody up to date about some things. If you haven't looked at the audio podcast feed in a little while, I released a panel from DragonCon in Atlanta, Georgia, where I did a panel on the final season of Superman and Lois, which was season 4. So if you're interested in that show and that take on Superman and hearing people discuss it, I thought it was a really good discussion. It was really interesting because everybody on the panel, and I think everybody in the room for the most part, just really enjoyed this show, which is not something that I thought going into that show I would feel about it, because in the early appearances of Tyler Hoechlin on the Supergirl TV series, I thought he was kind of just trying to do Christopher Reeve, and it was kind of boring to me. I didn't like that. It didn't seem like a different take. But once they had the Superman and Lois TV show, they actually tried to do their own kind of Superman. And so I think that's why I was able to hop in there and really enjoy it, because it was trying to do its own thing. So I thought that was really cool. So a really good discussion. I had been on that sort of same panel because I've done Superman and Lois panels before at DragonCon. So I knew some of the panelists. There was one guy who was new. I don't think I had known him before, but he seemed to really enjoy the show. So if you're a Superman and Lois fan, check out the panel. It's you can find it at supergirlradio.com. It's also in the audio podcast feed. So if you're interested in that, I thought it was a really good discussion. And it's interesting about DragonCon because there is a lady, and I introduced myself one time, and my memory is so bad as I've gotten older. And I introduced myself to her because she is always at these like DC panels at DragonCon, and she always has like the greatest thoughts to share. And I'm like, you should be up here as a panelist. And she told me one time she didn't really want to do it, but I'm glad that she always comes and shares her thoughts about what people are talking about in terms of especially DC TV, but she probably has thoughts on the movies too. So that I saw her at the Superman and Lois panel, and hopefully you can hear her on the recording. She chimed in at one point. I was like, I'm so glad she's still coming around here. So it's fun about DragonCon that, especially with those kinds of panels, I see a lot of the same people who come around and talk about DC. So it's a fun. DragonCon is so huge. I forget of what the last count is, but it's now grown to like 80,000 people or something crazy. But I still see some of the same people. Like I remember and recognize people and run into the same people in these like really niche little fandom things. So it's fun to have that experience. It looks like Mark in the chat says, I would not have blamed you if you skipped. Excuse me, I got the con crud after DragonCon, so I'm trying to recover. I would not have blamed you if you had skipped covering the issue of Krypto entirely. So yeah, Krypto #2 is a little difficult to read if you are a big dog person or a big animal person. It's digging into Lex Luthor and his time with Krypto. And I guess we'll talk about once Morgan hops on the stream here in a little bit. We'll talk about kind of the time period of this and what we think about this version of Lex Luthor. And I have a lot of questions. So hopefully we'll have a discussion that people will find valuable in that way. But I think this issue does a good job of showing what it would be like if a Lex Luthor had Krypto as a pet, because it's obviously it's going to be different than, say, Clark Kent having Krypto as a pet. So even though it is difficult to read. I think it's a good exploration of what would that be like, and I always kind of like those sort of what if takes on these characters and these stories because I'd like to see a little something different. And so the art's been really good in this, especially for a series where it's about the main character in this story is a dog. And so they do a really good job of using those emotions of the animal to express kind of what he has a little character arc even in his issues. So we'll talk about that when Morgan hops on. And so I think it's interesting that they're able to do that because they could have just done this comic book title as if Krypto had uh, thought bubbles and he could have been talking to other dogs and expressing his feelings that way, but they've chosen to go the route of showing the emotions through just the visuals and through Krypto's expression and some of the things that he does. And so I really like that. So yeah, Mark, we can't, if we were not going to skip issues of Rebirth, we're not going to skip issues of this Krypto comic book because we are completists. And if we start a series, we have to finish it. So I actually, funny story, a good friend of mine, her boyfriend got her some comics for her birthday. And it was a lot of Supergirl comics. She has one of them was the Golden Age of Superman, like a sort of trade paperback sort of volume thing. And but a bunch of them were she got two trades of Supergirl Rebirth, and then it was also the first volume of the New 52 Supergirl. And so she was like, which one should I read first? And I was like, well, technically the New 52 comes before Rebirth, so if you want to do it in some chronological order, though it doesn't really matter. I mean, they were very different in terms of story and tone and time. So it really doesn't matter. But it's interesting now that I'm thinking about it, and I'm vamping until Morgan joins us, is that the New 52 sort of set a standard that Rebirth kind of went back to, which was Cyborg Superman being Kara's father. So that'll be something that she'll probably, as she's reading through it, see a similarity in. But I always encourage people, if you're reading Supergirl Rebirth, make sure you read Rebirth and then go listen to the episodes of Supergirl Radio afterwards, because we went on a real journey with Rebirth, and I think people would find that entertaining. And I would be curious if they listen to the Rebirth episodes, does it seem like we've missed a huge chunk of time? Because we read Rebirth and it took us a long time to finish it out. So I would be curious if people listen to it back to back if they would miss that at all. So anyway, I think Morgan is joining us. Are you good?
Yes.
And I am missing my background. I even put a background in here. There it is. Beautiful.
Ooh, I sped red like my life depended on it.
So I didn't explain to the listeners
Sorry.
that we are the viewers, that we had a little bit of a mix up in what we were going to talk about today. And that's probably, that's on me. I didn't communicate it clearly.
It's possibly on me too. I thought we were going to cover the new Supergirl issue, but we were doing Krypto. So I like come sauntering on the stream. I open up the document. I go, what? Surprise!
But Morgan is now prepared for the Supergirl issue that we read next.
I've read it moments. I'm very prepared for Krypto, as I've read it moments ago, and I'm gonna have to now reread Supergirl probably, because the next time we talk about it, I'm gonna be like, "What happened?"
Well, you'll have some time, because as we're going to discuss, Supergirl Radio 500 is next week.
Whoa!
So you will get some time.
I'm so prepared then.
Yeah, you will. I'm not prepared for Supergirl Radio 500, but it is coming. It cannot be stopped. We will get there.
The numbers, they keep marching on.
And time continues on. But thank you, Morgan, for speed reading and getting through it. We'll discuss it, and we'll as always we'll figure out what the issue is really about once we kind of get into it. That's usually how it goes. Okay, so we are going to officially start talking about Krypto, the Last Dog of Krypton #2, and we don't have any news, so we're just going to jump right into it and talk about it. And so let's go ahead and get started.
McGurk! I love typing.
Not mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor Boardroom or Ballroom. Because
she looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Welcome to Supergirl Radio, your source for all things related to the character of Kara Zor-El. My name is Rebecca Johnson.
I'm Morgan Glennon.
And for this episode of the podcast, we are live and wired to discuss and review Krypto, the Last Dog of Krypton 2025, #2, which was written by Ryan North and includes art from Mike Norton. Ian Herring was the colorist. Lucas Gattoni was the letterer. The letterer is hard to say. The letterer. Sabrina Futch was the editor, and Katie Kubert was the group editor. And for this episode of the podcast, we have no news. It's a little bit of a slow news thing. There's like Superman movie, like James Gunn has like announced a new Superman movie. Yeah, there's like a new Man of Tomorrow thing that they're working on, but like who knows what that's really about. It's coming. They're gonna do another Superman movie. I think that's all we need to say about that. I feel like
I did like that they announced it with they like commissioned art, like comic art of Superman and Lex Luthor for that.
Oh, so that was
I think that was
okay.
I don't know if that was commissioned or if they just like announced it with the comic book art, but I like when they like actually like give big ups to the comics.
Sure.
So I thought that was neat. We don't know what the movie's going to be about, but we know Lex is going to be in it. We know Superman's going to be in it, and we know those two things.
So really, come back to me when there's news of a Supergirl sequel,
which there will be. That'll have to be after the summer of Supergirl, though.
Yeah,
we all know.
Every summer from now on is going to be a summer of Supergirl.
I actually saw something today where it was like, I guess it was some interview that they did with James Gunn where he said like, Supergirl, the casting for Millie was like one of the best castings they've ever done. So they're clearly feeling really good about at least Millie in the Supergirl movie. I'm like, yeah, let's like keep that energy for next summer and then let's like keep going with it.
Yes. So we have lots to look forward to in the next, hopefully like couple of months. I mean, we are let's see, 3 months until the end of the year, and then 6 months until like after that. So we're like 9 months out from the Supergirl movie. Is that right?
That's terrifying. That's so cool.
So what I'm saying is we could get a first trailer. I don't know, like
at any moment. 2026 is just like hiding around the corner waiting for us,
which is terrifying. Just in terms of time and history, it goes so fast. But I don't know. With the 9 months to go, I mean, I think by the end of the year, beginning of next year, when would they release the first one? I don't know. But yeah, so there's another Superman movie in the works. We don't know a lot about it yet, but when we do, we'll maybe talk about it, and really only if like Supergirl is in it.
When they confirm Supergirl is in it, as they will,
because we are just here for Supergirl, and we will always be just here for Supergirl. So,
like the T-shirt says,
go to the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store to get your own Supergirl T-shirt.
Stanley said, prepare to start buying Supergirl merch. And I've like already started putting money aside. You've got like your 401k. I have like my Supergirl 01k. That's just going to be all for all the merch that I'm going to buy, because there'll be a lot of merch, right? For WB. There'll be more than just an eyeshadow palette.
That's all it's gonna be.
Supergirl nail polish.
We have to lower our expectations.
We really do.
I would like Comet the Super Horse plushies. I feel like that's not a difficult ask.
That's not a difficult. We got a Krypto plushie. I just think that we should have a plush of all the super pets.
Yes.
And let's start strong. Krypto, Comet.
Yeah, that's a good.
What if they have the wings? Like you can buy the wings.
Oh, the fire wings.
The fire wings. I feel like commemorative fire wings. Just pitching things out there, I'm just seeing what sticks.
I think we should think about this.
Yeah.
What would the merch that we would want out of this? I think a lot of it has to be like, I would want like a t-shirt of, I'm just pitching out like t-shirt designs. I know we got to talk about this comic, but and Morgan read it so fast that it might be fleeting from her brain.
It's disintegrating.
But if it was me, if I was designing merch and I could do anything I wanted to, I'm DC Comics, I'm Warner Brothers, I can do whatever I want to. I would have a t-shirt of Supergirl riding Comet like over the rainbow thing in Woman of Tomorrow.
Oh, like Rainbow Bright style.
It's like Rainbow Bright style. I would buy that t-shirt so fast.
Me too. It's the crossover I never knew I needed, but now need the Supergirl Rainbow Bright crossover. She's riding Comet over a rainbow.
I think it would be amazing. But
Mark has a good suggestion. Comet popcorn bucket. I think that's sort of a no-brainer.
Okay, what would that look like though?
What would that look like? Maybe. Okay.
Would it be...
I've got it.
Okay.
I'm conceptualizing it. I'm beautiful minding this. So the bucket's like right here, and then over the bucket, jumping over the bucket is Comet. So he's kind of like attached, but he's like jumping over the bucket. So like you kind of have to slip your hand in.
That's what I'm saying. It's gonna make it more difficult to get the popcorn.
Practical, but it's gonna be beautiful. It's really gonna be more of a
it's a decorative piece.
A decorative piece that you're gonna pass down to the generations. And this was when we saw Supergirl in the summer of Supergirl. It's like, Grandma, we're putting you back in the home, but but you're gonna want to get the decorative Comet popcorn bucket. Now, if you were making the Comet popcorn bucket, how would you do it?
Well, the only thing I can think of is that like a popcorn bucket could be like the oats that Comet would eat.
Okay.
So could it just be like an oat bucket? Like how does oat normally
like
come?
Like an oat.
Like
So what if it is? What if it's like one of those horse feeder bags and you just strap it on as you go into the movie?
I think we have some great ideas.
I think we have some great ideas. Mind the Gap says, knowing how disturbing popcorn buckets are, you would eat the popcorn out of Comet's mouth.
That is definitely what they're going to do.
That would be the direction I think that they would go in, but I think we have some fun alternate directions.
Yes.
If they want to take any of this,
you could have multiple versions. Although Stanley also asks, what about some time of drunk Supergirl merch? Now that brings up a good point. We really are going to discuss the comic book. We promise.
We will. But this is important stuff.
This is important.
We need merch.
We need to be thinking about this. If it was me and I could do whatever I wanted to, I would sell like an official like that trench coat that she wears in the bar, like have like this Supergirl designed like jacket coat thing.
I like that because I like stealth nerdy stuff, like stuff that I can wear in my everyday life, and people are like, cool coat, and I'm like, it's from Supergirl. But then like also they don't need to know it, and I feel like I would also use that a lot, maybe even more than a strange Comet popcorn bucket.
maybe you could sell it as Supergirl merch because maybe like the S shield is like inside
Oh, like stitched into that would be cool.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
It would cost like $200. I would buy it though.
But listen, I would put out for that. I'd be like, this is once again, this is a generational piece. I'm handing this down. It was the summer. Picture it, the summer of Supergirl.
I think these are all quality ideas, and I think they need to implement them.
I think we've got some good stuff if they like, want to brainstorm with us, if they want like, some extra ideas. We're just like, we're here, we're available.
We can help you brainstorm. There are no bad ideas in brainstorming.
There are no bad ideas. Exactly. I don't want to like eat popcorn out of Comet's mouth, but
but if they wanted to make the decorative piece where he's flying over the bucket.
If they wanted to give us the oat bag we could strap right onto our heads, imagine how easy that is in the theater.
People are going to love
that. Go
that.
right down into it.
The people are going to really just go nuts for this.
The people, that's what they want.
By the people, we mean the two of us. And maybe some of the people in the chat, I think.
By the people, we mean specifically Supergirl Radio and Supergirl Radio listeners.
Before we get to the comic, I do have to answer a question. Mark asks regarding the leather trench coat, who wore it best, drunk Supergirl or Nightmare Batman? Don't make me answer this question. I'm not going to answer this. I'm refusing to. Nightmare Batman is like my favorite Batman in the whole world.
This is okay. Nightmare Batman is the Batman from the Justice League, extended edition,
sort of. Batman v Superman. It's like he's wearing the Batman suit, but like a trench coat on top.
That's cool.
Which doesn't make a ton of sense, but I love it so much.
He's a little chilly under there.
He's in the desert. He has to blend.
Oh, yeah, that would blend it. I was like, so like the opposite of chilly. He's a little warm.
It is a little warm, I think.
I'm gonna go drunk Supergirl just because I like how it like sets off the outfit.
True.
Like she's got like a really colorful outfit, and then like the trench coat is sort of like a beige, so it's kind of like contrast.
I think Nightmare Batman maybe looks cooler, but I think drunk Supergirl, it's more she can probably take it off easier.
That's true.
Like to put it on, take it off a little easier. It's more functional, I think.
I'm imagining Batman like trying to stuff the whole thing through. He's like, I told you to get the trench, but it's gotta be like 3 sizes up. 3 sizes, Alfred. He keeps ripping them. He keeps ripping them when he puts them on.
It's like Chris Farley in Tommy Boy, where he's like fat guy in a little coat. That would be Nightmare Batman in his trench coat.
Although I would pay to see Batman keep putting them on and ripping them and going, oh.
Just won't work. Also, Stanley says you should both plan to see the movie together in the theater. So, fun fact,
that would be fun.
We did that for the Flash movie.
Yeah,
which was somewhat tragic.
Supergirl was in it,
and she died a lot.
She died a bunch. We got to see that together, side by side.
It was a bonding experience.
It was an experience.
So I don't know. We'll have to talk about that, but that would be fun because this would be an actual Supergirl movie.
She's in the whole thing.
She's
hopefully. I
don't know. Lobo has been hyped up, so hopefully she's not being pushed out of her own. So yeah, maybe we'll see how that goes. If Morgan and Mike are available, we'll discuss that. But I think that would be super fun, and hopefully when that time comes, we'll have popcorn buckets that we can buy.
Oh my God. Could you imagine all different kinds of popcorn buckets? Superman had several options. We did. Popcorn bucket shop.
Even that weird one where he was like heat visioning the popcorn.
I was so upset about that one. I was like, what's happening? And that was like my local popcorn bucket too. And I was like, I don't get it. I had giant Krypto and then the heat visioning one. I was like, I don't like this merch.
I kept looking for the puppy bowl.
That one was cute.
I thought that would have been yeah, I thought that would have been nice, but I never found that one. Okay, well, we have talked too long about Supergirl merch that doesn't exist and maybe will never exist.
Yet.
But we should probably get to talking about what we gathered to talk about today, which is Krypto, the Last Dog of Krypton, number
Ooh,
2. A lot of crypto and
that's a tongue
krypton.
twister.
Yes. The description for this issue reads, quote, Krypto, the Last Dog of Krypton, has landed on an alien world called Earth after his shuttle test went catastrophically wrong. Krypto wanders into a city scared and hurt, but this lost dog has found someone to take care of him. A young man, troubled, unkind, but ambitious. Krypto just wants to be loved, but that may not be something this boy is capable of. Krypto may be the first to suffer at the hands of Lex Luthor, unquote. Okay, so Morgan, this is a story where Lex Luthor is basically like has a pet dog.
Yeah.
But he never names, to my knowledge, he never gives the dog a name.
No.
He just calls him Dog. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about, because I thought this was a really interesting part of it, is that so Lex is kind of the only one talking here. Krypto obviously doesn't talk. We see a lot of it through his emotions, how he feels. But so we do get a lot of Lex talking sort of to himself, well, to the dog, but kind of to himself. And he's explaining, thankfully to us about his past and some of these kinds of things. I got the impression, I don't know if this is correct, but is he in foster care?
So he explains it, and I to be fair, I was reading it pretty fast. So I might have missed some nuance there, but it seemed like he was living with his aunt and uncle or something.
Yeah, he
instead
mentioned
of his dad instead of his indolent father in Smallville. He says
Yes.
he says something about the price of including these relatives whose shanty I've chosen to stay in. He said, I had a house, not much better, but a true house with my indolent father in Smallville. But he orchestrated events such that I was sent here to these extremely distant relatives. So maybe not even an aunt and uncle.
So, and I guess not even a foster care situation, because it sounds like his father is still alive, but
It
just
sounds like
doesn't want him.
Yeah, his father is still alive. He has spun it as he orchestrated a situation in which he would be sent from Smallville, which is the middle of nowhere, to these distant relatives in Metropolis so that they could take care of him. I don't know if you're supposed to read it as like he actually did that, or if he's just trying to spin it because something came up and he ended up with these distant relatives instead of his father. And this is like how he's spinning it in his head. It's like, oh, this was all part of my plan.
He does call himself, I can't remember exactly how he phrases it, but he calls himself the just the smartest man alive, I think maybe is what he refers to himself.
Yeah, he says
smartest man on the planet.
Smartest man on the planet, yeah.
Yeah. So I think in his mind, he probably wants to believe that he orchestrated all of this. I had to look up the word indolent because I wasn't really sure what it meant, but it means wanting to avoid activity or exertion, also lazy. So
I thought it meant lazy. So
so he considers his father to be very lazy, whereas Lex sees himself as very smart and sort of held back by his circumstances, and he wants everybody to know just how smart he is. But I guess while we're talking about his situation and him sort of not quite adopting Krypto, but he is sort of in his way, I guess, I don't know if you would say taking care of Krypto, because he's not really feeding him in any sort of way or loving him in any kind of way.
He's being a very bad dog owner.
Yes. So what do you think about his idea of like, I'm not going to give you positive reinforcement. I believe in experiencing the consequences of disobedience. I guess it's fitting for Lex Luthor.
Yeah. I didn't like it. So I knew things were going to go off the rails when there was a content warning at the beginning of the book.
Yes.
Which I'm trying to find now because it's so small on the desktop view that it's basically unreadable, which is so fun for Kindle. So on the iPhone version. It says, this issue contains scenes of a bad person with a good dog. True heroes care for their furry friends and treat them with love and respect. So that was the content warning. So I already knew going in that this was going to be a rough read. I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
And I did not care for the way that he was treating poor little Krypto. Krypto was just trying to like learn the ropes. He was just trying to have fun and be a dog. And he kept on like hitting him. We see him smack Krypto. We see him like refuse to feed Krypto. He locks Krypto up in his bedroom and like doesn't let him out, seemingly. Like Krypto's not allowed to go into the rest of the house and hang out with his distant relatives who perhaps are nicer and maybe would be nice to Krypto. Then Krypto kind of gets bored in this, held up in this room all day, and he chomps down on a bedpost frame, which is a very dog thing to do. And then Lex puts him in a crate and tells him that he's like not going to feed him until he's a good dog. And so, we see Lex decide to train Krypto by basically not being nice to Krypto and showing him like this is good behavior and reinforcing it that way, but instead, negatively reinforcing him, instead like just yelling at him when he does something bad and giving him negative consequences. So I felt really bad for Krypto. There's a whole scene where Lex is taking Krypto out for walks, and he's being rambunctious, and then he ends up in the cage, and then he goes to see another dog, and he's so excited, and then like Lex puts him in the cage, and then the end of that sequence is him walking on the leash like very sadly, like head down, tail down, like very sad body language. And I was like, don't you dare do that to my Krypto.
Yeah, that was really I think what this issue does really well is that it shows the devastation of kind of these consequences to Krypto. Although it does open the issue with Krypto like ripping up a shirt. So I can understand why Lex would be upset with him, but of course, the way he's treating him is not right. I actually was talking to a coworker of mine today who was talking about, I think he has a new puppy. And the puppy, the
puppies
puppy,
are so bad.
The puppy like grabbed onto the keys in his pants pocket and like ripped his pants. Like,
oh no!
Fully ripped his pants.
That's rough.
So I think dogs, I think they don't realize how strong they are, maybe, or they don't realize like, oh, this is not a thing I'm not supposed to do. So they do have to be, dogs can be trained from what I understand.
And you can use like a crate to train a dog if like a dog's being too rambunctious or being too bad or being snippy. Like it can sometimes be helpful, like put the dog away. Like sometimes when our cats fight, I will just pick whoever seems like they're the aggressor, and I'll pick them up and I'll put them in another room. I'll close the door. I tell them it's timeout time. You're on ice for like 10 minutes until you can chill and be part of the world again. But so there is like, there are ways to train a dog that is like, sometimes it's like not fun for the dog. It's like, I don't want to be in this cage, but Lex is taking it to such an extreme where he's being mean to Krypto. He's not being kind to Krypto, and he's kind of breaking Krypto's spirit. He thinks that this way of training Krypto is going to, make him a better dog. But it seems like it's really just breaking Krypto's spirit. It's really just like, bumming Krypto out.
I wonder, and maybe this is me psychoanalyzing this version of Lex Luthor, but why? I guess I was trying to figure out, why would he choose that? Why would he say, no, I don't want to do positive reinforcement? Because he talks about how like other people think that positive reinforcement is a good thing. Most today kneel at the altar of positive reinforcement, wherein one rewards good behavior and avoids causing the animal stress, fear, or pain. They are wrong. I ask you, rhetorically, of course, how can one expect an ordinary dog, a beast, to correct its behavior if it never experiences the consequences of its disobedience? So he knows that there is the possibility of positive reinforcement for this dog.
Yeah.
But he is choosing this other method. And I started to kind of wonder to myself, like, where did he learn that? Why did he decide to do this other method that he thinks is better instead of positive reinforcement that probably a lot of other people do? He's heard about this.
Yeah, he
So,
knows the concept of positive reinforcement. I wonder if we're supposed to take from this that this is kind of how he was raised.
yeah.
And also the sort of the way that he talks about um not wanting to live with his father, his lazy father, in Smallville, and preferring to be in the big city of Metropolis, even if he's with these like distant relatives. I'm wondering if we're supposed to read into that, like maybe there was a reason he was taken away from his father, and maybe his father treated him like he's treating the dog.
Yeah, I kind of was going that route in my thinking, because I think that says something so much about like this version of Lex's character, that he is choosing this route with Krypto and the way that he is treating him. So, I guess that on some level makes me feel bad for Lex, because I think maybe he was abused. Maybe this was the same kind of situation where, like, if he didn't act right, his father wouldn't feed him. There could have been similar things that happened to him. Not that makes how he treats Krypto okay, but I think I could see maybe from his perspective, where he, that kind of thing, I think has to be taught.
Yeah.
That I don't think people naturally want to do that, because I think people naturally, as long as you're not allergic, I think people like dogs.
I would hope so. Yeah.
So-
I would hope at the very least that people wouldn't want to like hurt an animal. But yeah, we see Lex is sort of going in a different direction. I was reading this issue going like, "Oh my God, he's so evil. I hate him so much." And then thinking about all the other issues I've read where he's like plotting to take over Metropolis and like blow up this thing or blow up that thing or kill this person. And I was like, yeah, I'm just like, oh my God, yes, Queen, break out of the prison. But like the second he's mean to that dog, I was like, that's it, irredeemably evil. We need to we need to put him out to sea. Like it's so funny how visceral for me the like abusing animals bothers me so much. It's one of those things where it's like if I'm watching a movie and there's an animal on it, I immediately go to like, does the dog die, to like .com, one of my favorite sites, to prepare myself and be like, okay, I gotta know if Sparky doesn't make it, I need to emotionally prepare. And I do think that there's something of like animals, especially pets, like love us so much, and they're like so innocent and they don't really know what's going on, and so to watch them get abused is so much more painful a lot of the times than a big evil an evil supervillain plan where I'll be like, oh yeah, whatever. But then like he hits the dog and I was like, unbelievable.
Yeah, well, they do say, I guess, I'd have to look up some statistics on this. I don't know if it exists, but people who commit really heinous acts usually start as a young person who is abusing a pet or killing animals or something like, I don't know if it would be psychopaths, or I don't know what the psychological term is, but
I believe a lot of it's one of the things that they say a lot of serial killers have in common is that they abuse animals. So, because if you think about it, it's kind of like a stepping stone up to doing something bad to a human being, is like you start by doing something bad to an animal. So a lot of serial killers or murderers, you will find in their history, if you go back and you kind of talk to people who knew them when they were young, they'd be like, oh yeah, he used to blah blah blah, he used to torture an animal, or he would throw the cat out the window or something like that. And you'd be like, oh, okay, so like there were some problem behaviors, there were some signs. And I think Lex Luthor isn't such a nice guy, so I guess it does make sense that as a younger person he would be treating an animal like he will like later treat people, which is kind of as these things that should be doing what he wants them to do, the way that he wants them to do it. And he doesn't really care about like feelings.
Yeah. Well, and what was interesting to me was that throughout the issue, he's he could just like let Krypto go. Like if he was tired of this dog, he could just be like, get out of here. I don't want you staying here anymore. But he continues to treat Krypto like it's his dog. And I don't know if it's because of so in this story, Lex has this big plan that he's created a bomb. He's a young man, a young, studious man, I guess, the smartest man on the planet. And he creates a bomb, and he wants to set it off to kill these two people who are assuming responsibility for him. And I guess the plan is that he wants Krypto to be there during this bomb so it's more realistic or something of that nature. And so there's some parts of the issue that I thought he had bonded with Krypto a little bit. Like he goes to try to save Krypto when the bomb his plan kind of goes awry because the bomb accidentally goes off in a time where he did not intend it to go off. And so when that happens, he sees that the house is like on fire and things are the people inside the house and Krypto are in danger. And so I think Lex goes in to genuinely save Krypto. I don't know if that's like me just reading into that, but it sort of seemed like he did on some level maybe care about Krypto and was worried about it. Of course, Krypto in a fire is not going to be harmed in any way. He's going to be fine.
He doesn't know that what he has is a super dog.
Right.
So he's going to be fine. Yeah, I think we're supposed to read into this that Lex is a bad kid, but he's not evil yet. Like he comes up with this idea that like I'm going to get this money from their life insurance policy by blowing them up. But he does seem to, which is evil. Just want to put that out there. But he does seem to be like struggling with it, like whether or not it's actually a bad thing to do. He's like, I should do it, but he's also like, but I'm not a murderer. But I should do it, but I'm not a murderer. Like, how do I do it? Like, how do I justify this thing to myself? So you can see that he's struggling with the decision, even though it's a crazy decision,
Yeah, just
and not
don't do it.
a normal decision to make. It's like most people aren't just even in the situation where they build a bomb to try to blow up their relatives who are taking care of them for the life insurance money. You're already in pretty dark waters, Lex. But you can see that he's at least struggling with the decision. And so I think the idea that even though he's been treating Krypto badly, he also does really care about the dog. He like kind of loves the dog, even though he's been treating him terribly. So when he does see that the house is on fire because this bomb went off, his immediate thought is like, no, I didn't want to kill the dog. And I think we also see that earlier where he's like, yeah,
Beaker has joined us.
We don't like it when the animals get hurt, do we, Beaker? Beaks, do you want to weigh in at all on like what you thought about the issue? Disturbing is what Beaker said. Shocking, Beaker. He's like, this is why I don't come up anymore.
You're reading too many dog comics.
He's like, oh, where's the streaky book?
There should be a streaky book.
We get a Krypto book, but not a streaky book.
Maybe that's
anti-cat bias.
Maybe it's coming in the Summer of Supergirl.
Summer of Supergirl. I think that's definitely the moment we'll get Streaky. Streaky will get his own book as well.
Well, that to be fair, Streaky has shown up in the Sophie Campbell.
That's true.
On Supergirl. So we've gotten a little streaky there.
No spoilers. But now that I've read number 5. Way ahead of time, there is some good streaky content in there.
Okay.
So we'll be talking about it. So maybe Beaker will come back when we tackle that issue.
When we have cat specific
content, maybe he'll stick around for a little bit longer.
Okay, that sounds good.
He's like, oh, we're talking about the dog again. He jumps down.
We do tend to talk about Krypto quite a bit on Supergirl Radio.
There's a lot of Krypto talk here, and there should be more streaky talk. We need more streaky content.
I agree. I think it should be evened out. So I'm glad that the new issue, the new run of Supergirl, is featuring Streaky in that way. Yeah, it's just interesting to me that Lex is clearly kind of not on a good path. Like he's going to become a bad dude because he is mistreating Krypto, and there's a lot of animal cruelty here. But then there's also a moment of heroism where he saves Krypto. So it's very complicated with Lex in that way. I did think it was interesting. I want to say I can't pinpoint this history from Lex and other iterations, but I feel like it's somewhat character correct for him to want to use a life insurance policy in order to get money so that he can get out and fund whatever he wants to do. So in this issue, he wants to own 87% of Metropolis by his 18th birthday. So this is going to hopefully, but I don't know. Now that this did not go according to plan, he did not kill the two caretakers who have been looking after him, and he did not
That's
kill
true.
Krypto. So he's not getting that funding. So
I don't think he is. And one of his hesitations in blowing up these relatives of his, poor Catherine and Peter, is that he thinks that to have it be believable, he would also have to blow up the dog.
Right.
And so it seems like that is one of the things that's holding him back. Not necessarily any affection for his relatives who put him up. We don't even know. We don't know. He says like, oh, they don't even care about me. They just want the check. But then every time we see him leaving the room, they're like, hey, what's going on? Where are you going?
Like concerned.
So we don't know if that's just his perspective, that he doesn't believe that they care about him and they actually do care about him, that when they get out of the fire, they're like, oh my God, Lex, we're so glad you're okay. So we don't we're only being told like what Lex thinks about these relatives. We don't really have any insight into how they are actually acting towards him. But one of his big drawbacks is like, well, then I'll have to blow up the dog too. And like, you can tell he really doesn't want to blow up the dog. So I thought that was really an interesting twist, because in the beginning of the issue, he's just so mean to the dog, and I was furious. So the twist of him actually caring about the dog in his own twisted Lex Luthor way and going in to save the dog, I thought was good to kind of make this younger version of Lex not like 100% evil. Like, he's 95.
He's very close.
He's so far on his way.
He is on the path.
He's not a good dude. But he did struggle with the should I blow up my relatives, and he didn't want the dog to die in the fire. So I thought that was kind of an interesting, interesting that they still gave him like a little bit of humanity, and like he did care about the dog, even though he treated the dog terribly.
So I think that is sort of how I read it. But then I also think it could be read as he was upset that his plan didn't go according to his timeline. And so he was upset that Krypto is still alive. And so I think you could maybe read it two different ways, that he was maybe relieved that Krypto was okay and that he could save the dog, or he was frustrated the fact that these people survived this thing that he thought was going to give him all of his insurance money. So I think it's an interesting thing that I can kind of see it in both ways. Mind the Gap in the chat reminded me kind of what I was trying to think about, saying I believe that the idea that Lex Luthor needed to kill either his father or some family members for money, so like life insurance money, so that he could go and do some bigger things. Mind the Gap says, I believe that was post-crisis Lex's origin and Lionel Luthor's backstory in Smallville. So I think that is pretty typical for Lex Luthor, to use a life insurance policy to sort of start his business empire. So it's definitely what I was thinking about. So thank you for that. I did think it was interesting. There were a couple of quotes I wrote down about some things that Lex said. He says, freedom requires trust, and trust requires respect. And I had to think about that for a little bit. I don't know. Do you have any like initial thoughts on that, about freedom requiring trust? It was one of those quotes like Yoda says about hate
Yeah.
leads to suffering.
It's getting us to the dark side.
It was a lot to sort of like wrap my brain around. So I don't know. And then also Lex tells Krypto that you have to earn affection. And
Yeah,
I
I thought that was a telling detail from him, that he was like, you have to earn affection. That feels like something that somebody who's had to earn affection would,
would say.
would pass on to, now he's got this dog and he's like, okay, well, like, you're not, you can't just be nice to people. Like, you have to earn it. It's like, you can, Lex, though. You can just not blow up your relatives.
You could just be chill.
Can't you just talk to your Uncle Peter?
He doesn't seem that bad from what we could tell.
Yeah, I
probably
think
fine.
that I for me, I was really interested in after the house blows up, sets on fire, and he gets Krypto out, and then he looks back into the fire and he yells the names of his relatives. He yells Catherine and Peter, and then he just kind of stands there like sort of frozen. And for me, it's kind of like, I don't think that he really thought through the implications of like what he was planning and like what that would be like.
Yeah.
And like in that moment, I feel like he kind of changed his mind. He was kind of like, uh-oh, oh no. But when Krypto starts barking to like alert people that there's something's wrong, he immediately is like, be quiet. As if he was like, okay, maybe I can fix I can save
Like
my plan.
Yeah, like get away with
Yeah, this might have worked out for me. And I think it's so interesting that we see Lex, like young Lex as a character, swerving back and forth between evil and not quite as evil, so much, even within like the same page. Like he thinks about running in to save his relatives, and then he freezes, maybe because he's scared of all the fire, maybe because he's thinking, oh, maybe this will work out for me. And you don't know. And I thought that was kind of interesting, is that like, he's not 100% evil. He's not like the full-fledged Lex Luthor that we're used to. I think the one that grown-up Lex Luthor probably would just be fine with blowing up the house and the dog. But teen Lex Luthor, he's like, I don't know. The reality of burning down my house is actually more of a bummer than I thought.
But to your point, I think he's kind of looking at it like, well, I mean, the house is already on fire, and if they're in there, then I guess it's not really my fault, because this truly was an accident that happened. Like, I didn't intend for this to happen. So I think that's a really good thing to point out with those panels, is a lot of that is communicated through the art, which I like.
Yeah.
And what I think is cool about this is that this series is obviously, like, Krypto is the main character here. The character we're supposed to care about is Krypto, the last dog of Krypton. And he actually, I thought, had like a nice little arc, if you want to call it that. At the beginning of the issue, he's abused and beaten down, and by the end of it, he sort of literally finds his voice, where he starts barking to alert people that the house is on fire and that there are people in there. I don't know why he doesn't just go into the house and drag the people out. That is my critique of Krypto in this issue, that he could have saved them. But he finds his voice with Lex, and he sort of stands up for these people. And then by the end of it, he makes the choice to leave. He finds an opening to getting out of this situation with Lex Luthor, and he leaves that house, and he leaves Lex to go find somewhere else. And so I thought that was kind of I thought it was a nice arc for him, is that he stops being the abused puppy kind of. I don't know if he's a puppy. I don't know how old Krypto is at this point. But he he stops sort of being a victim, and he becomes a hero in this moment, and gets a little more sure of himself and confident with Lex. Although at the end of the issue, he seems a little sad again, because I guess, is snowing now. And
now he's out on his own.
He's all alone. So
yeah,
there is that.
I do like what you pointed out, that like he gets his voice back at the end. Like we don't really see him, doing anything or barking. He kind of gets smaller and smaller throughout the issue as Lex is, disciplining him in such a mean way and kind of not kind of actually abusing him, and he kind of like goes down. But then in that moment, after he gets pulled out of the fire, he finds his voice. He starts barking. When Lex tries to like bring him back, he growls at Lex and he runs away. So he's like, I've had enough of this. This is awful. I'm hitting the bricks. I'm going out on my own. And I was like, yes, I was clapping. I was like, thank you. Get Krypto out of there. This was honestly kind of a traumatic issue to read. I was like, I didn't like to see these bad things happen to my boy Krypto.
But I like that he chooses to leave. He's like, I don't have to stay here. Like, no one is keeping me here.
He's like, I'm on my own now.
So on the one hand, I sort of hate that he gives up on Lex. Like, I kind of wish there was something Krypto could have done to win him over. Like, if this version of Lex Luthor had a dog who loved him, would he be a bad guy when he grows up?
Oh,
I don't want to blame Krypto.
It's not
for the
Krypto's
inevitable
fault.
Lex Luthor
Krypto
situation.
doesn't have to put up with this nonsense.
But
respect, Krypto says.
But I just kind of wondered about that. Like, if he had stayed and tried to, I don't know if Krypto would have eventually found, like, I'm strong. I can fight him if I have to. I don't know. I just wondered if Krypto gave up on him too early. I don't know. I mean, obviously he was abused the whole issue, so he had every right to run away.
I gotta be. I was kind of expecting there to be some sort of like glimmer of humanity in Lex, and we do see that when he gets Krypto out. But ultimately, he like turns on Krypto then and starts yelling at him and telling him to shut up.
That's
because
true.
He's
That's
ruining his plan. And I think Krypto at that point was like, you know what, bro? I'm out. I'm over this. I just had to listen to you for weeks. Plot to blow up your relatives
and me
and I had to live in this little cage, and I couldn't even play with dogs at the dog park. This is all nonsense. I'm getting out.
That's true. I guess he did give Lex a chance.
I think Lex had a lot of opportunities. Krypto is a really good boy, as we've well established, and I think that if Lex had treated him kindly, Krypto maybe would have stuck around, and maybe that would have made the difference for young Lex. But Lex treated Krypto very badly, and so I was glad to see Krypto go on the run. I was like, save yourself, Krypto. I don't think there's any saving Lex.
Yeah, so I don't know where the next issue is going to take us, but I actually liked even though this is a hard read, I liked getting to see the kind of what if Lex Luthor had Krypto for a little while, and
I thought that
would that look like?
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. It was a lot darker than I expected it to be, honestly. Like, when I heard they're going to do a Krypto comic, I was like, great. But honestly, Krypto's life has been pretty bad in across these two issues. Like, first he gets sent off by his owners. Thanks, the elves.
And they didn't know if he was going to come back. Like,
They
it was
weren't
a total
sure.
experiment.
They were like, oopsies, when they just lost him, and then he ends up on Earth, and he's Lex Luthor takes care of him and puts him in a crate and doesn't feed him food if he's bad. I was like, wow, just like every issue a little worse than the one before for old Krypto. I can't imagine what's going to happen in the winter time.
Well,
this better not be like just a Krypto torture run, because I need him to have a nice time. Maybe make a snow angel. I don't know.
Maybe is this are we coming up to the middle of this run?
I think there was 5 or 6.
So maybe we're about to turn a corner with Krypto. Maybe things are going to start looking up for old Krypto. Maybe this is winter time where like Christmas is happening. And so maybe it'll be a nice heartwarming little Christmas issue.
That's true.
It could be. We'll see. I don't know what's going to happen, but hopefully things will start looking up for.
It's like Krypto's A Christmas Carol. He saves Tiny Tim.
If that story doesn't exist, I feel like that should exist.
I think that's like a slam dunk.
Yeah. So do you have anything else you wanted to talk about in terms of the story?
No, I think we kind of covered everything. I again, a lot darker than I expected. The first issue had some dark moments, and certainly was not ideal for Crypto. But I feel like this one was really actually like very dark. And if you are like a little sensitive to animals being treated badly, this is kind of a rough read. I was
Yeah.
like, don't you hit him? So I think that the content warning was justified in this
Yeah.
one. Like if I had gone into this being like, oh, let's see what shenanigans Lex and Crypto get into, and then like page 3 is him getting shoved into a box, I'd be like, what? So maybe my critique is maybe a little darker than it needed to be. But I did think that they did some interesting things with like showing a young Lex struggling with how evil he could imagine himself being. And I think that we really got to see Crypto, rise up from this bad situation and decide, okay, that's it. That's enough for me. So I thought it was like a good issue overall. And I think that the art is actually doing like such a good job because
Mhm.
our main character is a character who doesn't speak. So
Right.
they have to do all of his emotions. They really has to be through the art, through the facial expressions and the body and like the body language. And I think that they're doing a really good job because I truly felt how upset Crypto was
Mm.
in this issue, how sort of like cringed he was, how like sort of beaten down he was through the issue. I mentioned that the one panel where he runs off to play with the other dog and then Lex pulls him back, and then in the next panel he's like walking alongside Lex, but his head is down and his body language is small, so you can tell that like Lex is kind of breaking his spirit. And I think it's really impressive to do that just through the art. Like the story, like the dialogue is telling you the story about Lex, but I think that the art is what helps you keep on top of how Crypto is feeling, and he is the main character of the story.
Yeah, that's such a good way to put it, that the art is really telling us about Crypto. I really liked, I think it's page 6 maybe.
So hard to
Um
tell on
it's
the
so hard to
digital
tell
version.
on the Amazon sort of Kindle desktop version, but there's several panels where Lex has been smacking Crypto, and Lex leaves, and Crypto is trying to find a place for himself to sit down, and he's um finding a place to curl up on. I guess it's a cardboard box or something. And so he finds a place to eventually sleep. And I just thought that I think it's like 6 panels where he's sort of sad, and then he has to kind of turn around and make, an evening for himself. He has to figure out where he's going to go from there after being abused. And so I thought those really, really helped me with his emotion there, just to understand how lonely that would have been for him, and how cold it would have been for him. He doesn't have he doesn't have a really like comfy little bed. He doesn't have any amenities for any living space that he has here with Lex. So he's sleeping on the floor on top of just a box. So I do think the art does a lot to carry the emotion of this issue, and the coloring is beautiful. The way it goes from the cold kind of greens and blues of Lex wanting to plot out the murder of his family and his dog, to the warm oranges and yellows and reds of this fire that happens. Some of those panels with the fire I thought were especially good because I understood what was happening, which is like a very important part of comic book art.
It
Because
is.
sometimes comic book art happens, and I'm like,
Sometimes you're
wait,
like, what
what
am
is
I
happening?
looking at?
But I thought this one was really clear in where Lex was and what he was doing with this fire. And I think it really gave a lot of insight into what this meant for Lex and his plan. So I think the art has really been a standout in this series. But I think the storytelling is also very good because it's giving Crypto a journey, and I think that's really cool about this idea for this series, that it's a comic book title about Crypto. What would
Yeah.
it be? What would it be like if Crypto hadn't I mean, at this point, like, he had an interaction with little baby Kal-El on Krypton, but he hasn't really interacted with Kal-El in a while. So, he's on his own journey.
Yeah, I think that you mentioned the earlier panels where he curls up onto the cardboard box, and I went back to the first page, and I noticed that he's on the cardboard box with the shirt that he's ripping. He's kind of like chewing on it,
Right.
but he's lying on top of the shirt. So I wonder if he had kind of pulled the shirt onto the cardboard box to make himself like a little bed,
Yeah.
and then got smacked for it. And
Yeah.
then when Lex leaves, you see him kind of look at the shirt and then leave the shirt and go in and sleep on the cardboard box. So,
That's a good point.
like, I think that, like, once again, like, Lex in his, in his quest to make Krypto into an obedient dog isn't seeing that, like, what Krypto is probably needing is like a little space to himself, or like a little dog bed or something. And instead he just sees the bad behavior, instead of like the purpose behind it. And I felt really bad for Krypto in that scene. I think that's really where you start to like step into Krypto's perspective and see how sad he is and how lonely he is.
Unfortunately, in that circumstance, Lex, I think, is proven right that the experience of consequences um, uh, does train Krypto a little bit. That instead of being the positive reinforcement, this sort of negative consequence, it does, like when Lex is abusing him about the shirt, Krypto realizes that the shirt is a bad thing now, and so he doesn't go back to it. And so unfortunately, Lex did train him in that negative way to let go of that. So that's a really good point with the way that they've woven that part of it from the beginning into another section of the story. So yeah, I think this issue, even though it's really, really hard to look at and to read and to visually see, I think it's really well done. I think if you were going to tell this story, this is a top notch way to do it, because the storytelling, I think, is good, the characterization is good, and the art is very good as well.
Yeah, I thought this was really well done. It was like a tough read, especially if you're an animal lover, but the art was really well done, and I think that you really do feel for Krypto in this issue. And like you said, even like the coloring was the coloration was beautiful, in the way that you can kind of feel his loneliness in the blue panels and the, those sort of dark panels, and to the moment where he runs away during the fire. You can really feel like the fire in those panels. You can see like ash in the air even. So I thought the art did a really good job. And I feel like you would have to, in a Krypto series where like Krypto doesn't speak and you're like really relying on, the art to do that heavy lifting for you, you'd have to make sure that you are getting a really good art team. And I do feel like this book has that, and they're very lucky.
Yeah, it is. It is a beautiful series so far. So kudos to everyone involved in it. Do you have any other thoughts, or did that kind of get us into overall thoughts?
It's weird to say, it's hard to say I liked this issue because it was a tough read. But I do think that it was well done. I thought I really felt for Krypto, and it does leave me in a place where I'm hoping that the next issue things go a little bit better for Krypto, because it's not been going good so far. And this is sort of I feel like this is a low point for Krypto. And I feel like the Phoenix, he's going to rise from the ashes.
Literally from the ashes.
Exactly. This the next issue, it's everything's coming up Krypto. That's what I'm guessing.
I do think that if you're going to give people a really difficult issue like this to read, I think the next one should be a little more enjoyable to read. I think that's fair to the reader. So hopefully everything will pick up from there and be a little more positive for the super dog. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. If you'd like to contact us, you can post a comment on our website at supergirlradio.com. You can email us at supergirlradio@gmail.com. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on X and Instagram, all at Supergirl Radio. If you like what we do, we encourage you to give us a rating and write us a review on Apple Podcasts or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Supergirl Radio is part of the DCTV Podcast and Multiverse of Color Network, so go check those out if you are interested. You can hang out with us as we go live and wired, usually on Tuesday nights, but like this week, we had to kind of reschedule things a little bit. But usually we're on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern on the DCTV Podcast YouTube channel, so make sure you are subscribed. DCTV Podcast also has a TeePublic store, so if you're in need of new DC Comics, DC TV, Krypto-related T-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, magnets, tote bags, pins, phone cases, pillows, or stickers, go to supergirlradio.com and click on the TeePublic store link at the top of the page.
And since this issue was about Krypto and Lex Luthor, we have designs that include both of them in the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store.
Yeah, so it's fall, sort of. In
Almost.
where I live, we've had little bits of fall weather, but it's still somewhat hot. So maybe this is not maybe for the people in those areas where that is the case. But we do have long sleeve shirts, and we have sweatshirts, and we have hoodies. So if you are needing some winter attire, as Krypto is going into the winter time, if you need some long sleeve shirts or warmer clothing, we do have that. So we have Lex designs, LexCorp designs. We have Krypto fighting Doomsday. So if you're into any of that, please visit the DCTV Podcast TeePublic store and check out our merch. And we would like to thank our legion of super sponsors. These people are Michael, Anne Marie, Yvonne, Nicola, Abby, Miriam, Nicole, Brian, Ethan, Majuba, Andy, Rachel, and Kit. If you'd like to become a legion of super sponsor, you can go to patreon.com/Supergirl Radio. If you would like to keep up with me, I'm on a couple of places. I'm on Vero True Social at Derby Kid. I am at the Derby Kid on Instagram. I also have a personal YouTube channel at youtube.com/DuckMoProd. One of these days, I'm going to get back to posting some things there. I think I have to go back and look at it. Well, not look at it, listen to it. I did another DragonCon panel in addition to the Superman and Lois one that we released through the audio podcast feed on Supergirl Radio. I did a live action remakes panel.
How did that go?
It was interesting.
Okay.
What was so interesting, so it's frustrating for me as a Zack Snyder fan, is that I can go into any panel. It could be an underwater basket weaving panel at DragonCon, and there will be some way that they bring up how much they don't like Zack Snyder, and I'm like, why? I'm trying to get into panels where that is not an issue for me.
This is about a different thing.
This is about a totally different thing. And Zack Snyder, I kid you not, came up 3 times during
in the remake panel?
Yes.
How?
And what's funny though, and I should have
Were they talking about Watchmen? That's
no.
not even really a remake.
Well, Zack Snyder did famously make a remake called Dawn of the Dead, and it's actually an acclaimed remake that people hold it up as like, this is how you do remakes. But that never came up during the panel, and I should have said something, but I was so like shocked and flabbergasted that it was happening that I was like,
not here, not now.
if I continue to talk about this, we're gonna get stuck on this. So I should probably not say anything. But I did sort of laugh to myself because I was like, you're talking about this, and one of the biggest Zack Snyder fans you will ever meet is in this room on this panel. And like I was so shocked by how that kept coming up. But so that was very interesting. And then the gentleman to my right said that the original Star Wars movie, A New Hope, was not a good film. And there were so many points in the panel where I had to just kind of like
Star War.
yeah, the original Star Wars.
That's an interesting take.
I had to, in many moments, gather myself and just learn to disagree. There was a practice in disagreeing for that panel. So I was frustrated with myself because I forgot my audio recorder that day. So I had to use my iPhone. So hopefully I'm going to listen back to it. And if the audio is good enough, I will post it to my personal YouTube channel just so that it's out there and people can listen to it if they so choose to. And then also the gentleman to my left, I have a lot of takes, Morgan. I have a lot of hot takes. It's
Hot
not
takes. Coming in hot.
it's not unusual for me to have a take about something that is maybe unpopular. But the gentleman to my left, when I said, because this is true, when I watched all those Disney live action remakes, I was surprised that they were not terrible. Like that was a revelation that I had. I was expecting these to be terrible. I wanted them to be terrible. And I was like, they're actually not bad. Like the craftsmanship of the movie is good. Most of the performances are good. The direction is usually good and the visuals are so like I was actually disappointed that they were good.
They're kind of like unnecessary, but fine.
Yeah, they were acceptable. And so I mentioned that during the panel that like I couldn't hate them. And I was kind of mad about it. And I said something like, I was surprised that they weren't bad.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy next to me like muttered under his breath, like, yeah, they were. And I was like, dude, it's just my opinion. Just lighten up, my guy.
Everybody got into a room together and decided all of them were bad, and that's a scientific fact.
So it was and then
also, how dare he say that about Dumbo?
Dumbo was good.
Dumbo was good.
Dumbo was good. And also he brought up, they kept bringing up the Flash movie, and
what?
They were talking about like nostalgia or something. I don't know.
Okay.
And this was another thing that I could have like spoken up about, but at some point I was just like, I'm gonna let these people on the other side of me.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna let them duke it out. I'm not interjecting myself here. But I thought of anybody in this room who wants to be mad about the Flash movie, it should be me. Like all these people cannot talk about how much they are mad about the Flash movie. I should be able to be the one who's the most mad about the Flash movie. So anyway, all that to say, the live action remake panel was something. And so there is that. But yeah, so hopefully if that audio turns out to be okay, I'll be able to post that. So that would be something to do. But I did get to, finish and watch a lot of those remakes. So I guess that was productive.
You did. Now you can weigh in with authority on all these films. I see that Stanley also wants to know, did you meet any lots of cool celebrities?
Oh my gosh. I meant to post this.
Were the celebs popping at Dragon Con?
I meant to post this to the Supergirl Radio social media, and I forgot. And I totally also forgot to
I casually met Melissa Benoist.
Well, no, I did. I unfortunately did not do that. But I do have a picture with I could potentially, let's see if I can, if we want to keep talking, I'll try to see if I can get it loaded into StreamYard here. But the only celebrity that I ended up, because I wanted to meet the Muppets, but they were kind of expensive, to be honest. And they were. And they also did not, in their Walk of Fame stuff, which is like the area where a lot of people do their autographs, like Dave Goelz had like a mask on. The guy who does Gonzo, he had a mask on. I was like, well, maybe he'll take a mask off for the picture, but what if he doesn't? So there were a whole lot of things that I got to see them at a panel. So that was enough for me. But the one celebrity encounter I had was with James the Grown Man Olsen.
Oh my God.
So I went to Makad Brooks's table here at the Walk of Fame, and he was very nice. And I told him
he got his camera back.
So I wanted to, because James on the Supergirl TV series lost his camera, and that made him want to become
tragically
devastated, like ran over the camera. And that made him want to become a costume vigilante because he just couldn't buy another camera.
That happens to me when I break electronics all the time, honestly.
You're like, I'm never gonna get another one ever again, and I'm gonna go out and fight crime.
I drop my iPhone and I immediately become the Batman.
So, since I knew that, he played James Olsen and cameras were a big part for him, I thought it might be fun if I went over there and just said, "Hey, would you like take a picture with me of us taking a picture?" And he was like, "Oh yeah." And so I had 2 cameras with me. I think it's the KSX 1000. It's a 35 millimeter film camera that a friend of mine gave me because she knew that I was trying to get back into film photography. I took a lot of shots of Dragon Con on that camera. So we'll see what happens when the film comes back. But then I also had recently I made an impulse buy to buy the Fujifilm Instax camera, which is kind of like a Polaroid film camera, but it has like really good quality pictures. And so I had the 2 cameras, and so I let him pick which one he wanted to use for the picture. And so he chose the Fujifilm Instax camera. I should have like let him take a picture with it because you can then like print out something.
Oh, that would have been fun.
But so now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I should have actually had him like take a picture. But he was so game to take that picture. It's one of my like favorite like Dragon Con celebrity encounters now. So I got to take a picture with Jimmy Olsen. So that's
so cool.
That's pretty fun. And so he was really nice about it. And because we had gotten to talking about cameras, I didn't get a chance to really kind of work in Supergirl Radio. But I did.
That's even better.
But I did wear my Just Here for Supergirl t-shirt while I met with him. But I did talk to him about how I really appreciated that in James's storyline, they mentioned a Birmingham, Alabama photojournalist who did a lot of stuff during the civil rights movement. And so we sort of talked a little bit about that. So he was great. I had a great encounter with Makad Brooks there at Dragon Con. So I can't believe that I almost forgot to mention that. So I'll post that picture to the Supergirl Radio social media accounts so people can see it. But he was great.
I saw Mark in the comments says Makad looks huge. I can attest that I also met him years and years ago at San Diego Comic-Con, where he was also very, very nice and very charming. And somebody asked me to take a picture of him and another journalist, and I was like just failing out with the camera, and he was like making fun of me for not knowing how to take a picture. He was like, "This isn't hard." I was like, "It is if you're me." But he's well, I'm like 5'2", and so he was like, the way that he towered over me, he's a very, very tall man.
I'm about 5'8.5", I would say.
Yeah, you're tall as well. Everyone's tall to me. That's the problem.
But he was still very tall. And he's a big guy. But he was very nice. And so we talked. He told me, I asked him about if this was his first time at Dragon Con. He said he had been there before. And then he also said he came as a fan one time.
Oh.
And I was like, interesting that he just like walked around. I guess maybe it's before the Supergirl TV series, I think, that he had come. And so he was sort of familiar with the kind of zaniness of Dragon Con. Because if people don't know, Dragon Con is way different than a lot of your other standard conventions.
It seems so fun. I got to get there one day. It seems so much more laid back than San Diego or New York Comic-Con, which are usually just insanity, just people running around, everybody on top of each other, everybody's stressed, and it seems like and then I see like pictures from Comic-Con, everyone's Dragon Con, everyone seems like they're having such a good time, and I'm like, gotta get to that one.
It's a party convention. Everybody's just kind of like chilling out. Some people will go to like official parties and things. But it's just usually just for me, it's a time to hang out with my friends. We found a new location to like eat our meals, and it was so nice. The weather was so good. And so it was just this was my 18th Dragon Con, and this was probably my favorite Dragon Con that I've been to. Like it took 18 years to get to like the great one.
I figured it out. I also had just looked up Makad Brooks, And I don't think I realized that he has been on he just left Law and Order, but I didn't know he had been on Law and
Oh
Order.
yeah.
And that was a surprise to me. Chom chom. Good. Everybody's been on Law and Order at some point, or I feel like you have to work your way through the Law and Order salt mine.
Yeah. So
I
he
didn't realize he was a cast member.
yeah, he did join another TV series, so that was good for him. So I think Makad's doing good things, doing big things, and I I really enjoyed meeting him. So that was my one big celebrity encounter, but it was a good one. So I was happy with that.
That's a fun one.
Yeah. So what's going on with you,
Oh
Morgan?
my gosh. I got so into the Dragon Con stories, I forgot I was supposed to be
I mean, I
plugging
have
things.
so many Dragon Con stories, but I don't know that we have time for it.
You can find me as a co-host of the Legendary Ladies podcast, where Amy's play has finally wrapped up. Kat is back from Europe. And so we are going to record an episode next week, I believe, on the Netflix show The Hunting Wives, which is a absolutely crazy, like over the top soap opera based on a book that I've actually read. So it'll be fun to see what the other girls think of it, because I started watching it and I was like, this is wild. And then I finished it in like an entire weekend. I was like, I got to watch the next episode. I know what's going to happen, and I got to watch the next episode. So it will
That
be fun to
sounds
see what
really
they
fun.
thought.
Amy was Lady Macbeth
Amy was
in
Lady Macbeth
in the Scottish play.
in the Scottish play. Yes,
That
yeah. It looked like it was a fun time too. She's
I
been
bet
posting
she
a
was
lot of
great.
fun stills from the production.
Yeah.
So if you follow her on like Instagram, you can see all the stills. But I'm never more mad about how we live across the country from each other than when she's doing these plays that I want to go see.
I would have totally gone to see her as Lady Macbeth.
It looks
That would have
really
been
fun.
amazing. She would have been great. So I'm excited to hear what y'all are gonna have coming up. I also wanted to just give a shout out to Bill Meeks's friend of the pod.
Oh.
He has a new project that he's about to release. So he writes some stories in his original universe that he calls Everly Heights. And there is a new podcast, a series of stories that he's about to release called Everly Heights Tales, Tales.
Ooh.
So if you're interested in that, if you are a longtime Supergirl Radio listener and listen to The Fakest, which Morgan and I were voice actors for, he is doing a very similar thing, and he asked me to do one of the stories. So
Ooh,
I
nice.
play a character named Clara, who has a very interesting encounter in an old theater. There's a seat
Ooh.
in the theater that has magical powers, and so he asked if I would do the voice narration and do a little bit of acting, if you want to call it that. So check out Everly Heights Tales if you are interested in that. There should be some really good stories. Bill writes really clever, smart scripts. So, and his editing is also very good. He usually produces them very well.
Is that going to be like a podcast or like a YouTube or?
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing with YouTube, but definitely a podcast. So you'll be able to listen to the audio version. So I think he's about to start releasing the episodes for it. So I don't know when mine's coming out. Don't judge me. I'm not an actress. I don't know why Bill thinks I can do these things. I'm like, I'm not an actress, Bill. What are
I don't
you
know.
doing?
You were pretty great on Fakest.
I don't know. I was mostly playing a version of myself, so that was kind of easy. But
same with me. I was a witch who had a lot of bees, and that's just kind of a version of myself. You think about it.
You don't really. You have a lot of range.
I think so. Yeah, I can play myself and an old crones, which is what I'm slowly getting to eventually.
So Bill, sometimes if he needs somebody, he will ask me, because he'll know I'll do it for free. I'm not gonna
He's like, I gotta get Rebecca. I gotta get my ringer in here.
So if you're interested in that, check it out. He does really good stuff. So I'm glad to see that he's still creating things and making new stories. Okay, well, I think that is going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. But until next time, I'm still Rebecca Johnson.
And I'm still Morgan Glennon. And the next time you will see or hear us, we'll be celebrating Supergirl Radio's 500th episode.
That's so many episodes.
Oh my God, so many episodes. If you've been here from the beginning, oh my God.
McGurk! I love
Not
typing.
mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom, because
She looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Yeah!